Hello, everyone out there in Facebook and YouTube world. Welcome to Hospitality Career Connections, episode 3 of season 1. This summer has been our first season and first foray into this little project. I am Dr. Nikki Davis. I am the director of the Hospitality, Tourism, and Event Management program at SIU. And co-hosting with me, as always, is Mr. Zachary Sims.
Hi guys, I am Zachary Sims, as Nikki said, in beautiful Orlando, Florida, and a co-owner and creative director of Innocent Sky Entertainment, a photo, video, and marketing agency, and also a graduate of Southern Illinois University's hospitality program. And today I'm excited to introduce a former student as well in class, former classmate, Liz Hoder with Olive Garden and Darden Restaurants.
Hi, everybody. My name is Liz, and I graduated from the SIU Hospitality program in 2011. That's so long ago. I have worked with Olive Garden and Darden Restaurants since I graduated, so they can't quite get rid of me yet.
Not at all. I'm going to pop your website up here in just a second. I had to make a new banner. We weren't quite there today.
We might have been talking too long.
Well, we do talk a lot. So Liz, there's the website for folks if you guys want to pop over and see what Olive Garden's doing these days. One of my favorite places, I will have to admit. But tell us what you've been doing since graduation, and that's not that long ago.
It feels like it. So when I graduated, I actually graduated in the winter because I didn't know that hospitality is what I wanted to do right when I went to SIU. So I graduated and I was like, I'm going to travel and go have fun. And then I looked at my bank account and realized, wow, got to get a job to do that. So I applied to a lot of different corporate restaurant jobs, and corporate was what I wanted. I didn't want to work for any private restaurant entities. So I literally got a job as a server at the Olive Garden. And in my interview, instead of talking about serving tables, we talked about management, we talked about future careers, and we talked about the mentoring programs that they have available at Darden Restaurants. And I was lucky enough to be able to work quickly through those programs and be able to be quickly promoted, I think within a year and a half, to a manager. And then after that, it was another year and a half, 2 years, maybe 3. It all blurs when you're working. Maybe it was about 3 years, and I was promoted to a general manager position.
So it didn't take long.
No. That's the nice thing about corporate restaurants is that everything is performance based. It's not politics. It's not who you know. Mm-hmm. It's putting your numbers up on the board and getting things done through your team. So if you can be a great team leader and really care about people that work for you and like grind and get the results, you're going to be great. Yeah.
And that's a great thing about corporate anything, but restaurants certainly. Darden does a really good job of taking care of their own. And I say that a lot about companies and promoting from within. And you're certainly an example of how that's worked well.
Oh, and it's even now, I mean, we have post-COVID, it's really changed the landscape because you've had a lot of people who've been long-term in the industry deciding that it is time to retire. So I think in my area that I know of, we have at least 30 managers in training, and at least 20 of those are employees that were working in position. And I think that makes a more successful manager if you can understand what your staff is going through. Because if you've never served a table in your life and you're like, oh, I'm so sorry, they're not really they won't feel that it's genuine if you can't identify.
And I 100% feel that. And a lot of times I feel like people, you get this idea of you go to college and right away you're going to have the job that you want because you have a college degree and those things. And but when you stop and think about that, if you're graduating at 21, 22, 23, 25, even if you're a non-traditional college student graduating later, 3 years wasn't a long time to necessarily have to put that time in to get to that level. But you have to put the time in.
I feel like when I left, I had a good idea of how to run a business, right? Because we take a lot of business classes, accounting classes, human resources classes. And I was like, okay, I can run a business. But then you get into the restaurant environment and it's one of those controlled chaos environments where what can go wrong will go wrong. And you really need practice working in that atmosphere before you can go and be like, okay, now I can run this like a business. And I don't think that I would have been successful if I didn't take the time to work in position, learn different things, learn from my mentors that I worked for in the past, and really absorb everything. And because now it's easier to do my job because I can walk in and do any of my team's jobs if they're struggling.
That's such an important concept that I talk to students about. I talk to managers about sometimes too, when they're, not having the greatest of days, and how that really helps. I'm glad you mentioned the business classes, because that's one of the things that, and you two probably remember this from being in college. It's hard to explain to a freshman coming in why we make them take accounting and why we make them take hospitality, law, or human resources, or any of the number of business options that we have as part of the curriculum. That's actually expanded since the two of you graduated. We have a few more of those core business courses, whether they're from the College of Business and Analytics or they're out of our program. But I'm so glad you said that, because it's so important to understand those basic business, have those basic business skills and that foundation moving into our industry.
Yeah, I mean, I deal with people, right? I have my managers who work under me who manage the restaurant and manage the guest experience. It's really my job as the general manager to manage the employee experience. So I have to know all of the labor laws, the hospitality laws, everything that goes into it, and then be able to mollify any situation before it might snowball into something else. So taking those classes, like I still have my textbook on my shelf. And if I have like questions, I'm like, how do I deal with this situation? I'm like, I'm going to look in the textbook, the one with the fish on it from like way back in the day. But it's, it's still a great resource. And, sitting in Dr. Smith's class and her making us make a handbook was like, I look at our handbook now whenever I have questions about, what direction do I need to come from with this, with the employees? And it just really helps to pay attention in those classes and do your homework, because that's literally your whole life. Flipping through the Illinois laws, labor laws, making sure that you are hitting everything. Because even at the corporate level, I manage that. It's not managed by anyone at the resource center. It's me.
And I think that was something when we were talking about this before going live, you were saying as a general manager of a restaurant, you're an HR person. Yep. It's not just food. It's not food service. It's HR that happens to serve pasta.
Yep, that's exactly what it is.
Really good
pasta and breadsticks.
Something about the salad and the soup.
The salad. Okay, so for everybody watching, you have 3 Olive Garden fans right here, if it's not clearly obvious. So talk to us. You said you. I'm kind of trying to remember what you did while you were in college, and okay, for me that might be a little bit of time ago.
You've had a few students.
I've had a couple of students since then, right? So you took a job at Olive Garden. Did you do an internship with Darden? I can't remember. That's the part I can't remember.
I did not. So okay. Darden doesn't necessarily offer anything that's an internship outside of the corporate sector. So you would literally, if you wanted to do your internship with Darden, you would have to basically get a job at the restaurant and work in position. When I was doing my internships, I did them at a privately owned country club. So I worked helping run a restaurant as an assistant manager. And then we also did quite a few PGA events while I did work there. So it was working with a larger corporate entity, but also working for a privately owned country club. That is working there was a great experience. And I learned a lot about managing, about ordering, about all the other kind of the messy stuff that you have to do when you're a restaurant manager. And it helped me realize that I needed a place with more structure. And that is why I chose to stop working there after, because I could have gone and applied for jobs that were available at the country club, but I decided to go for a corporate entity because I felt that the money was there and the structure was there for job security, which, as we know in this field, is not always a guaranteed thing. And and also just had the years of experience behind it where they have market research that I could never afford at a privately owned restaurant. And I can retire from Olive Garden. I don't think that if I was working in a privately owned restaurant, would it be fulfilling? Yes. Would it be cool to see, famous people, famous chefs, all this kind of stuff roll through? Yeah, absolutely. But I don't necessarily think that I could be like, okay, cool, my 401k matching, and I'm going to go ahead and retire, and I'm going to buy my house with confidence. I don't think that would be there if it wasn't a corporately owned restaurant.
Yeah. So you had your priorities in mind and your internship. I mean, it gave you some skills that set you up for success, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But also in your mind, let you know what you didn't want out of your career and then what you needed out of your career. And that's what we try to instill as best we can. And we required the same internships that the two of you had to go through. They're still there, a few years later. And restructured a little bit. The first one is more structured. The second one is more like what you guys went through with more of a management feel in a facility or in a restaurant or hotel or wherever. But we require a lot of work hours. And part of that is to get our students the experience that they need, in addition to the degree, to go into whatever career path in the industry they want to, but also to kind of clue them into, is this really what you want to do? And oftentimes that's exactly what they want to do. And then there's the one-off that says, you know what, no, this really isn't for me. And I'm glad I figured that out now.
Yeah, you really, really have to love it, because my work week is not a 40-hour work week. It's not a 9 to 5. It's not weekends and nights off. It's, you need to be there when you need to be there to make sure that it happens. And some days a week, sometimes that can be 6 days a week. Sometimes it's 5 days a week. You get one weekend off a month, and you're probably spending your holidays with your restaurant family before you get to go see your own family. And that's just the reality of it. But at the end of the day, the reason I like working in restaurants so much is that we get to be with our guests at the most special parts of their life. Like, we're there for the engagement, we're there for their wedding, we're there for their birthdays, their anniversaries, and then we're there for them when they lose someone as well. So it's just, if you look at it from that perspective, working the holidays and the extra hours isn't so terrible, because you get what you put into it. You get out of it what you put into it. Just taking care of people.
I feel like, isn't this the appropriate time to mention when you're here, your family? Is what I'm.
We're all family here. We actually changed ours to "We're all family here." We sold "When You're Here, Your Family" to Jimmy Fallon for $1 on the Tonight Show.
I love that.
$1.
He owns it now.
$1.
$1.
Oh my gosh, that's a trivia question right there. I think
that.
I'll put that as extra credit on an exam in the fall. So students, if you're listening and you're in my classes in the fall, be ready for that one. Goodness.
That's how you get them to watch these afterwards, right? You're like, by the way, there is a hidden exam question.
Extra credit, tell me. Oh goodness, we come up with crazy stuff sometimes on here too, but
also, like, how great of an experience, like, we were talking about, obviously, like, during the internships, I was not a food service person, but the amount of stuff that I learned from other people's internships who worked at corporate restaurants, at family-owned restaurants, at, all these different things, it was great, because for myself, when I went into the theme park industry, I never was in food service, but there was many times that I was helping out foods teams, and I was like, oh, okay, now I'm seeing some of these things that other, students were talking about during their internships, and how I think that helps, because everyone's going through the internship process. You kind of learn more than just your own a little bit as well from those experiences.
Oh, absolutely true. People who are I actually learned a lot from some of the people who were working in hotels and things like that, because as serving with customer service, it's a little different when you are serving them as a server and when you're dealing with them as a manager. And how you deal with them as a manager is a lot the same as you would deal with someone that's, if you're behind the front desk of the hotel. So you just kind of have to put a different hat on what you're learning and run with it, because guest interactions I'm going to say, if you don't like guests, if you don't like the public, don't go into hospitality, because I'm an introvert, and I'm able to be in a position where now I employ people in order to talk to guests. But if guests get to me, I have to be able to take it and spin it and make sure that they leave happy. But that's a huge part. People are like, oh, I want to cook, or I want to do this and be in the kitchen. I was like, even if you are the best culinary manager in the world, which my culinary manager is, I truly believe, he is still out there on the floor talking to tables, asking about their food and fixing any problems that are service related that may come up. So you might think just because you want to be culinary focused or you want to be food service focused that you're not going to necessarily have to deal with the people side of things, but that's it. It's like half HR. There's like a third HR, a third people, and a third food. And it's the juggle every day.
The conflict management, people skills in general, customer service skills, but the happy customers and the satisfied customers are maybe a little bit on the easier side than when you have the unhappy customers. And it happens, and we've all been there. I've had my fair share in my career too. So that conflict management skill set is crucial in restaurants, in hotel, front desk management, in tourism management, event planning, when you're dealing with clients. I mean, it just goes through the entire industry.
Yeah, the empathy has to be there. Even if you're not a naturally empathetic person, you need to read a book and figure out how to be.
Yeah.
Because it's being able to put yourself in that person's shoes. I tell my staff all the time, I'm like, to go out to eat at the Olive Garden today is not 10 years ago. It is at least $50 to go out for a meal. I was like, would you pay $50 to have a disappointing experience? No one's coming out to eat to have a bad time.
Right.
They wanna have a good time. So if we make a mistake, own your mistake, flip it. If they ordered something they didn't like, we'll fix it. Like, it's not that big of a deal if you go at it with a good attitude. But if we're in this culture where people have been just labeled like, oh, it's a Karen, oh, it's a this, oh, it's a that, and it's really put a stigma on people who may actually have a legitimate issue. And I feel like that's something in the hospitality industry that we need to kind of shake out of our brains and go at things with a different set of glasses, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's such a good viewpoint there too, because when you're talking about value, there's going to be a difference if my burger is not right at a quick service restaurant, that I'm paying $1.50 to $6 for, versus Tour of Italy, that you're paying $18, $20 or whatever that might be. You kind of have to put those perspectives on and say, okay, it isn't this, but how nice is it though also in the food service industry, right, that you can make it right,
Yes. You can. It's not like there, and that's the thing though with post-COVID. A lot of the business has shifted away from dine-in. So businesses that were traditionally running 5 to 10% in takeout sales are now running 25 to 35% of their business out the door. So we have to be able to squeeze that Olive Garden experience into our takeout, our curbside takeout, our catering delivery services that we offer to our guests, and have to make sure that everything is accurate, have to make sure that everything is on time, have to make sure that we're taking that same care to pack those bags as if they were for our own family. Because, if I forget the breadsticks in your takeout bag because I'm moving too fast and I'm not doing accuracy checks the way I'm supposed to, that's devastating. Like if, that's the only thing, my 6-year-old is going to eat, and now I have to call the restaurant and go back and all these things. Mm-hmm. We never want to put anyone in that situation. So it's changed a lot where, if you're in the restaurant, yeah, cool, I can fix it. But how can we fix it and make it up to our guests if it's a takeout issue has been the most interesting learning curve that I have ever learned.
Adapt, right? Adapt and overcome.
You have to. We did not close one single day during any of COVID. We were open for takeout from day one, and it was let's learn as you go. And I think that we're the better for it because learning how to run your business differently in different landscapes and kind of just shaking yourself out of your routine. Even with COVID, I mean, we had, as Olive Garden, the most profitable fourth quarter that we've ever had since being open. And I'm like, that's
awesome.
That's with, on social distancing and a majority takeout and doing all of these things. So it shows you the perseverance of the people you have working for you, because you can't, I will say this 1,000 times as a restaurant general manager, I cannot do anything without my team, because I can't seat the table, serve the table, cook the food, make their drinks, and then run it out to the table and make sure that everyone is still great. It's about taking care of the people that you expect to take care of your guests.
Like family, you want to treat those folks just like, number one, you would want to be treated. Going back to the golden rule that we learned in kindergarten. But if you think of them as your family, that's going to, push that even further. How you brought up COVID and the pandemic, and kind of hit a little bit on how your Olive Garden shifted a little bit to that takeout, carry out.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see that continuing for an extended period of time or beyond? Once we kind of get beyond, I'm not sure when beyond will be at this point with COVID, but or do you see things 1-2 years down the road kind of collapsing back into what we're used to from 2019?
We are seeing it's the same so far. I mean, obviously, since immediately after they did reopenings, we're seeing more dine-in guests. So our to-go has shrunk a little, but nothing to what it was. And I don't anticipate that going back. I anticipate our company, I mean, as you know, like Darden Restaurants, largest full service dining company in the world, we make our own processes. We never, so I see more and more stuff coming out for to-go. We always have new technology happening. We are always moving and grooving in that direction. And I don't see to-go going back to 15 orders at lunch. Because whereas now you're doing between 40 and 100 at lunch only. And then you flip it and do between 100 and 200 at dinner. I just see that being a normal part of people's lives where, some people are still going to be working from home. They don't have time to go out to eat. They can stop by and pick up. It's easier to pick up on the way home and not drag the kids out on a Friday night if they're having a temper tantrum. And I feel that it's more socially acceptable because now they trust us to do the takeout, because we proved to them that we could honor our promises. And I don't think it's going to stay to the wall busy for takeout, but we've even seen on holidays where it's trended up, even this year when we were open with the dining room. So people are having their big parties at home, and then they're coming out with their friends a few times a week, or they're coming out with their work colleagues for lunch. But I don't know what the future holds for delivery, small order delivery, things like that, because Darden always has their own plans in the pipeline. But I think that some of our to-go guests are going to remain to-go guests because they feel more comfortable that way.
Sure.
But
convenience probably plays into that too.
Yeah. Especially my location is on a busy street and it's by a shopping mall. So people are stopping and getting their groceries. They're not stopping in to dine. They're stopping to grab their to-go order that they placed on the app while they were shopping, and then they're on their way.
Yeah.
One of the things I think that you just said that, I hadn't even thought through with the popularity of now delivery and curbside and to-go orders and app ordering is when you had said the tantrum thing. A lot of parents with kids who are on a spectrum and things, a dining experience at Olive Garden, isn't necessarily possible for some of their kids. I mean, because there's a lot of sensory happening. It may be loud or the restaurant or, who knows what. I think it kind of opens it now in this world of where delivery is a thing and to go is a thing, people with disabilities who getting out and being mobile is more difficult, or, even working from home, or kids who are on the spectrum and things. It kind of makes restaurants more accessible, I feel like, as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Because, I mean, this morning we actually DoorDash breakfast, and it's you open the door and it's there, because we didn't have time to go out and get it. But some people, going out and getting in your car maybe a 20-minute ordeal with a wheelchair or other things. So it just makes that experience.
It takes like the daunting nature out of something that might be difficult, because if you're already taking your child who may be on the spectrum, A, B, C, D, F, or G, whatever they may have going on for them, and then you have to put them in the car, we have to get there, we have to sit. And then, as we all know with kids, the second they sit in a restaurant chair, an invisible timer starts above their head. And when their timer's up, your timer's up. Like, it's, I think it just makes it more accessible that we're seeing guests that we haven't seen in a long time in all of these different areas. And it's, the difficulty now is, okay, I haven't seen this guest in this many years or this many months. How do I please all these guests that have different ideas of what their expectation is with one product, one promise, one set of standardized necessities for everyone to follow in the restaurant? And I think that's what everyone's dealing with right now, because it's like, okay, I can make my dine-in guests happy, but how do I make my to-go guests just as happy? Because they might be cool, but they're not great. So it's just the balance of, meeting everyone's needs in different ways.
And a definite balance. I can only imagine. I've been teaching for just shy of 20 years now. So it's been a while since I've been in industry, and so much has changed. And not just in the restaurants. And restaurants is not my background. And you guys know this, but for those watching, I was the marketing and event management person, but so much has changed in those fields. So as faculty, Liz, it's great that we have, alumni like you and partners like both of you that can come in and talk to our students or do things like this on Facebook Live with us. And it keeps our students up to date, it keeps faculty up to date, and we can deliver courses and curriculum that are on point. So for that, I appreciate certainly you coming in to do that. We are shy of our 30 minutes by 3 minutes. So final question, Zach. I think we've talked about everything that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I think one of the things is, Liz, for the final thing is, what would you tell somebody who wants to be the next Liz, who wants to be a general manager of a corporate restaurant or a family restaurant or what, and they're in high school or thinking about college? What would you tell them as your piece of advice, how to get there?
I would say, number one, pay attention in math class, because you're going to use it. And accounting. I would say, you have to be willing to put in the work on the front end, because the restaurant industry especially is an industry that's built on respect, that's built on your work ethic, that's based on your performance, and then how you can get other people to perform just as well as you would if you were doing it yourself. So those personal relationships that you form throughout your career and those people that you idolize, choose the right ones. Choose the people that are compassionate. Choose the people that make the best choice for everyone, not just for themselves, because no one wants to work for the general manager who's disrespectful, doesn't care about their personal life or schedule, doesn't care about their success outside of the restaurant. And if you can do all of that and then show great work ethic and just show up and do the things. If I'm the plumber today, I'm the plumber. Guess what? If I have to paint the wall, I got to paint the wall. If I got to fix the stove, I got to fix the stove. And it's just go with an open mind. You're going to learn a lot, but you don't need to necessarily nail everything the first time. There's always a second chance.
Wow. Yeah. I think if I could stand up and applause and answer like all of that.
Right. Yes, absolutely.
A compassionate leader goes so far, because if you think about the way that the work culture has changed, there's no one that's being like, oh my gosh, yes, they wake up in the morning, they're like, they're 6. I can't wait to work for Olive Garden as a corporate general manager of a restaurant when I grow up. No, they want to be a firefighter. They want to be a paramedic, whatever they want to be. But it's, you have to want to work on someone's team. And that team might not be Olive Garden Darden, but that team might be Liz Olive Garden. So if my team wants to be on Team Liz, Team Olive Garden, then I won. That's really the truth.
Absolutely.
Well said, ma'am. Well said. I'm going to pop up just because I can everybody's websites one more time.
The Vanna White point.
Right, there you go. So again, thank you, Liz, for jumping in here and talking with us this morning, and talking with whoever ends up watching down the road. We share these with students and share them in classes as well. So you may have people reach out in 6 months after having watched this in a class. Zachary, of course, thanks for co-hosting with me.
Always.
This summer. And for anybody interested in Olive Garden or Darden, I will put links in the comments below once this all processes on Facebook. If you are interested in Innocent Sky Entertainment or marketing help from Zachary and his team, please contact them. And of course, as always, if you're interested in learning more about careers in hospitality and tourism and event management, you know how to find me. So thank you both. We'll see you next time.